My name is Julie Ann Kelly, and right now I'm working for Hearst Television, corporate America, and I moonlight at night as an amateur boxer. And this past March, I won my second New York Golden Gloves in Madison Square Garden. I had cancer when I was 22. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I went through chemotherapy and radiation. And I think for most people, that was a big deal, and it impacted me a lot. But really, the one thing that I've struggled with more than anything else in my life is alcohol, big time. I started drinking when I was 11 years old. I had my first drink. At 26, I took a time out and I didn't drink for 3 years. And it was during that time that boxing just really, I don't think I would have been able to stay sober for 3 years if I didn't have boxing. So overcoming that was really, it was a dark time when you're in there, and then when you finally decide you got to get out, that's even the darkest. It's weird. You make the decision, I'm going to fix this, but that's the hard time. But that's probably the biggest struggle I've ever had in my life. I just knew I was better. I had more in me than a drink or 20. There was more in me, and I just wasn't living up to what I didn't know what my potential was, or I was total when I was drinking, I was totally lost. I had no idea. I just felt broken and empty and didn't know which way to go. One time when I joined Trinity and I was still drinking, and I remember Martin Snow came up to me and he said, "Have you ever fought before?" And I said, "Boxing or like a street fight?" And he was like, "Boxing." And I said, "No." And he was like, you're pretty good. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he said, "Can I ask you a personal question?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "How much do you drink?" And I was like, "A lot. Why?" And he's like, "You look kind of bloated." And I remember this conversation. Yeah. And I'm staring at him, and he said, "I'd like to train you for the Golden Gloves, but you can't work as hard as what was it? You can't train as hard as I need you to train if you're drinking as hard as you do." And I remember being like, "Oh, man." And it was then, it took maybe a couple months after that, but then I was like, you know what? I get this, no. When somebody lays it out like that, it's booze or, a sport, a shot to compete to see how far you can take yourself. It would have been a sad choice if I had stayed with the booze, so I cleaned it up. I honestly think that it comes from feeling really empty. It drives you, it's just, it drove me to try and fill it and to fill it in a positive way, and luckily boxing did that. I just feel like when you're faced with obstacles and adversity, that's when you really find out who you are. Do you lay down and die, or do you fight? You figure it out, and figuring it out can be scary. But that's, it's funny that boxing's my sport and you're getting into boxing and you have your struggles, and because boxing, it's such a metaphor for life, really. It's just, life's a fight, and you go through all this, and then when you're getting ready to fight, you have nerves and you have butterflies, but there's nothing scarier than real life. A fight's a fight. You're trained for that. You're not trained for whatever life, brings you the next day. But you're trained to block a left hook. There are going to be days you're going to get discouraged, and there are going to be days you're going to cry. I used to cry. I would spar, or just, you just get discouraged. It's like you go through these periods where you just don't think your brain's connected to your body, or you're not getting it, and I can't. The best way, when I used to have a group of girls here at Trinity and I'd help train them, when they first started sparring, guaranteed every single girl at some point started to cry. It was guaranteed. And I don't know, I didn't know how to, I'm not very eloquent, and I didn't know how to explain it to them. So one day I asked this one girl, I said, what's the hardest thing you've ever learned to do in your life? She's crying, and she's like, ride a horse. And I said, well, imagine you're trying to ride the horse, and every time you screw up, somebody punches you in the face. So that's what boxing is. That's what learning how to box is. You're gonna cry. If that were the case, you're gonna cry. That's boxing. You know, just get past it, and there'll be days where things will just absolutely click, and you'll take a step back and you'll say, "I can't believe I just did that." I've been trying to do that for months. It muscle memory, it'll just click. And those are the days that crying is not an option. You just want to skip out of the gym. You're so proud of yourself.
Celebrate.
Yeah. It sounds so corny to say, but it really changed my life. It changed my outlook. I mean, it's good for the body. It's good for the mind. And for what it's done to me, I just feel like I have to pay it forward. Because, you know, if I didn't have that chance, or if people didn't spend the time teaching me things, then I wouldn't have been in Madison Square Garden having people chant your name. So, yeah. So you just gotta just pay it forward, and it'll come back to you.